What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Get Real Bass Fishing. We are making content again, and up until the time that we're going to start fishing, we're going to be teaching you guys how to get started, what to look for fishing, basically tutorials and all these how-to videos on to get your 2024 season started and to catch some fish. So for this video, we're actually going to do a how to get started in surf fishing for 2024. So if you're just getting started, this video is great. If you're already in it for a year or two, or maybe 3 years, and just want to learn a little bit something, this video is also for you. For everyone who's been in it for more than 3 years, by now you probably have figured out what you need, what you don't need, what's working, what doesn't work, and specifically what works for you. So let's get started. We're gonna jump right into the rod, because without a rod, you can't do anything surf fishing. So let's jump into what I've been using for the last year, and I'll talk about some more rods that I've used in the past. So if you're unfamiliar with this channel, this is the first video that you've seen. Every single year we try to use something different, a new rod, new reels, new lures, new techniques. We try to learn something new. That way we understand what's working out in the ocean, what's working in the back bays, what rod is actually the best, what reel is the best, what line is the best. That way we're not just, oh, we've been using Power Pro our entire life, that is the only one that works. Or we've only been using a Daiwa, or we've only been using St. Croix. So last year we actually did use St. Croix for a majority of our surf fishing, if not all of our surf fishing here. Last year was the St. Croix Siege. I used a lot of the 10-6, 10-foot, and 9. However, my 10-6 with my old Van Stall is in the ocean. I got hit by a wave and it went right out of my hands, right into the inlet. So I only have my 9-foot and my 10-foot with me right now. And when it comes to what rod size you should pick, so if you're new to this, you don't know what rod size you should pick for surf fishing, a lot of times it's distance. So if you're fishing in the back bay and it's not too far that you need to cast, or if you're fishing in the inlets and you want to pull up some big heavy fish in big current, what rod do you pick? For me, when I'm fishing inlets, I like either a heavy fast, medium heavy fast, or medium heavy moderate fast, 10-foot 6 or a 10-foot rod. That's just my preference. Some guys will go extra heavy, some guys will go moderate. It just depends on what you prefer. And as you get into surf fishing, you're gonna figure out what you like more. And for me, when it comes to big current, big water, moving big fish inside that kind of water, I like to have the heavier rods. That way, if I need to pull them, like just get them out of the jetty areas, the rocks, or pull them down current because they float down that way when they're swimming, I like to have that heavier, stiffer rod as opposed to a moderate action, which is a little bit softer, where you're gonna have more bend and a little bit less control. So this is specifically, this is a 9-foot medium moderate fast, which is my favorite for the back bay when there isn't a lot of water moving around. There's no waves where I need to cast over and get past breaks and get past sandbars. A 9-foot is great. This one is a 10-foot medium moderate fast. Both St. Croix Sieges, and this one is just a little bit more for distance. My 10-foot 6 was a little bit more of the power horse. So when you're fishing the ocean, the open beach, casting over the waves, casting over the breaks, casting over the sandbars, you're gonna want something a little bit bigger towards the 10 or 10-foot 6. That way you can cast farther. A little bit that actually affects your casting as well is the action of the rod. I found that a softer rod will actually cast farther, and that's personal preference. Like I said, if you want to use the moderates, go ahead. I like the heavier action rods, just horse them in a little bit quicker. A lighter line will also cast a little bit further. So I have 30-pound line on my Van Stall, and on this is a Daiwa BG. This is probably the least expensive reel you'll find for surf fishing, and if you clean it up good every single night after every single surf fishing trip, it should last you a pretty long time. These have lasted me 3 years and sounds perfectly smooth. So like I said, I have 30-pound on these. If I am fishing around rocks or jetties, I will typically add, I don't know, maybe 60 feet of 40 or 50 depending on where I am and the severity of the rocks. but also you're not tying your lures directly to the braided line. You are tying them to a leader, which is either monofilament or fluorocarbon. I don't have any leaders on me now, but monofilament and fluorocarbon are a little bit more abrasion resistant, so if they rub up against rocks or cements or pylons, or let's say if you're down south, oyster beds, monofilament or fluorocarbon will be more resistant to snapping or tearing or getting cut as a braided line will. Although braided line, as a smaller diameter, is a tougher and stronger material, it is more likely to get snapped off, cut off when it comes to rock, cement, and stuff like that. So never tie on directly to braided line. Always have leaders. We sell leaders on our website, smoochandrelease.com/shop, or you can just go to the store, buy a little thing of 40, 50, 60, 80 pound mono or fluoro. Fluoro is going to be more expensive. I always use mono. And just tie them yourself. Tie them to a barrel swivel down to a clip, or you can tie an FG knot or a uni to uni. Just know the FG knot's going to be a little bit better when it goes through the guides. You can throw a longer leader on. When it comes to uni, it's a little bit thicker as a knot and will get hung up in your guides, and you're going to pop out all the inserts. Try not to do that. I typically tie on between a 3 to a 4 or 5 foot leader when I have barrel swivels, and with a 10-foot rod you can go a little bit bigger. That way you can just launch a bait out there. So never tie direct to braided line. The thinner diameter line will get you further. I don't typically go under 30 pound. I've tried to fish 20 and 25 pound with these heavier rods, and I tend to snap off on the 20 pounds. So 30 is my go-to and my safety route. We talked about rods, we kind of talked about reels. There's a bunch of reels that you can get. That is a Van Staal. This one is a Van Staal. That's a VSX2. It's approximately 800 bucks. You don't need that to get started. Get a Daiwa BG. This is a 55, I think, or a 5,000, however they do it here. 5,000 BG. Typically like to, if I'm plugging away, I like a 5,000 or a 6,000 size reel. Anything bigger than that is just going to be way too heavy for you to be fishing every single cast for hours and hours. If you're bait fishing, go a little bit bigger. You'll get tighter drag. You can use heavier line. You're not going like this every 2 minutes, so you're not constantly blowing out your shoulder with a heavy reel. But Daiwa BG, Penn makes a good reel, Spin Fisher 6, the Slammer 4. I have fished the Conflict 4000 and 5000s in the surf. They're super light, but they're a little bit more pricey than the Daiwa BG. I think this one's sitting at $100. I think Spin Fisher is maybe 200, and the Slammers are 270, I believe. I'll link every single one that I talk about in the description below. That way you guys can take a look, and whatever fits your budget, go ahead and do it. Obviously the more expensive ones are gonna have better seals, better materials, gonna last a little longer. This one is not sealed at all, which is why you have to wash it every single time. Let's see. There's a few accessories that will make your life a lot easier. You don't need them to get started. This one is an actual surf belt. This one's made by Z Belts. I will link them down below, and if you have the money, go ahead and get a Z Belt. It is probably the best thing you'll ever do if you're surf fishing. It's one of the best. It is probably the best belt on the market. It's lasted a really long time. This one I've had for maybe 3 or 4 years. I have a new one at home. This one is a Z Belt single tube plug bag right there. These are pliers. You're gonna need pliers, but when it comes to accessories, this is a Turtle Cove plier holder. You don't need to get this, but if you want to upgrade anything, upgrade your plier holder to the Turtle Cove. This is the best one on the market. It is by far the best thing I've ever done for my pliers. Super easy to put them in, super easy to take them out, and they're durable. I've had these for what, 4 years now, I believe, and it's like brand new. Those are also Van Staal pliers. You don't need those. For my first 4 years of surf fishing, I went with $15 pliers, and they lasted the entirety of my surf fishing. These are also $15 pliers. I will link these down below. They come with their little plier holders, but they're like a mesh material, so you could get some hooks in there and get stuck. However, perfectly fine. I did it. It works. But when you're looking for pliers, make sure you get that little split ring tooth there, and cutters, whether they're here or here. That way you can cut your line when you're tying on new leaders, or if you have to cut your line to free it from something, that's cool. When it comes to these split ring teeth, you need to have that in order to change hooks. It makes it so much easier to have a durable pair of pliers with a split ring tooth on it. So pliers are a necessity, because if you're catching bluefish, you don't want to put your fingers anywhere near them to unhook them. You want your pliers. And this split ring tooth also helps when you're put it onto the hook for the pliers. Just rip it out and it'll get stuck on there, and it won't slip off of your pliers. So get a split ring tooth on your pliers. Make sure you get a pair. All right. Now, what are you gonna do to catch fish? I got a bunch of lures here. I don't want to get into too many different types of lures, but I do want to teach you guys some of the, let's say, best ones that are more likely to catch you some fish. And I'm just gonna group them all together into specific groups instead of doing individuals, because there are a ton that I could talk about, and I'll do a video on that as well. But to get started, you're gonna want something that works the top of the water column, the middle of the water column, and the bottom of the water column. So this is what we call top water, these are what we call swimmers, and this is what we're gonna call jigs or bucktails or something like that, bottom baits. All right, so in this box, I basically have everything but the bucktails, which are over here. Top water baits, the best thing for your money is a tsunami talking popper. So I will link all of these lures down in the description below. This is a 6-inch tsunami talking popper. I typically like bunker color or a bone color, which is like a cream white color. Anything that slightly resembles a bunker color, you can do good. If something's hitting top water, chances are they're going to hit any color, just looking for the splashes. And I'll do technique videos on how to fish these as well. But you want something like this. This is a top water plug called a tsunami talking popper. I typically like 6-inch talking poppers. You can use the 5-inch talking poppers. The 6 typically get a little bit further, and the 7s seem a little bit too thick for if there's medium-sized bluefish or medium-sized stripers. So if you want an overall catch, go with the 6-inch tsunami talking popper. There's a bunch of other top water baits, like this one is, I believe, a 4-inch talking popper. This is a head-in, a super spook. So there's a bunch of different things. Those are really light though. Let's get into the middle of the water column. There's a couple really good baits that I like to use for that. These are SP minnows. We've caught so many fish on these, bass and bluefish, whether it's nighttime or daytime. SP minnows, this is a 6-inch floating. This is what bone color looks like. And this is also a SP minnow. This is the chrome. This is a mag darter. This is a 5-inch mag darter, which is typically my favorite size for the mag darters. When it comes to the 6-inch, they work really well too, but they typically catch really big fish only. You might side hook or like a gill hook the smaller fish, but they typically come with like size 2 hooks, which are a little big for smaller size fish. So a 5-inch is my go-to. These are swimming plugs, so the middle of the water column. So you cast out and reel, and these are gonna go swimming down in the bottom and swimming like that. When it comes to the bottom of the water column, there's actually a lot of different techniques that you can use, and we'll go over those in some videos as well, but these are called bucktails. We sell these on the website too, and we've caught plenty and plenty of 40 pluses on these specifics. Like I have 2 of these hanging on a mount in my living room for my 2 PBs in the last 2 years. So these specifically are 1.5 ounce spikes bucktails, and these, when you cast it out, so top, middle, bottom, there's just different ways of fishing a bucktail, but a lot of times you're casting it out, letting it sink down to the bottom and popping it off the bottom for fish. A lot of times you're doing that and then you're doing a, let's say, a drift. That way, so when you cast upstream or up current with a bucktail, no matter what size it is, it's gonna sink and it's gonna float down. So when you're fishing a current like an inlet or something, you have to get used to how these sink, or get a good feel of when or how these sink. So this is a 1.5 ounce. Typically this is my favorite size for fishing the current that I fish, because I can cast it out and it's gonna sink and float at a good rate. A lot of times fish are gonna hit right there in the middle of the water column while it's sinking and you're twitching it down because you're gonna put a trailer on here. Whether a swim bait or like a fat cow strip, or when it sinks down to the bottom, you're popping it and it's sinking and floating down with the current as well. So you can fish these on both the bottom, the middle, or the top of the water column, depending on the weight and how you retrieve it and the current. So those are 3 specifics that you should get when it comes to lures. So get some top water baits, tsunami talking poppers, get some middle of the water column baits, get a mag darter in more of a natural color, so bunker color, maybe a shad color, or mackerels work too. Red and whites work as well. It's more of like a bluefish bite though. Bone colors work for stripers and bluefish really well, and then at night, black and blue, or black and purple, or black for all of those work as well. Bottom of the water column, you can use bucktails. We have eels. There are also, in some cases, you can work swim baits, which are these. Work them the same way as a bucktail, let them drop down to the bottom and just pop them off and let them move in the current. So there's a bunch of different ways that you can do it, but make sure you get something for top, middle, and bottom. All right, so are we gonna go out into the surf in April, in the middle of April, opening day, and just go out and walk in the water in the freezing cold? Yes, however, we're gonna have waders on us. There's a bunch of different companies that make really good waders. In the last 4 years, I've tried a bunch, and the FROGGTOGGS have actually worked the best for me. They have a good return policy. They're really good people over there, and I've really learned to like these things. So these are FROGGTOGGS. I believe these are the Hellbender ones. I will link these down below. I will link alternatives down below. These are actually stocking foot waders, so they require a boot. When it comes to boots, on here I have my old Huck boots. I have new Huck boots, 2-year-old Huck, 3-year-old Huck boots on my feet now, but these are my old ones that started to leak, which I just turned into a non-studded, sand beachy type thing for my stocking foots. That way I didn't have to buy boot foot waders. Boot foot waders are a lot easier. You slip them on and they're on. When it comes to working around rocks and jetties, and what I did before I put these boots on here was I used these boots. I still use these when I'm fishing rocks and jetties. Like if I'm fishing Montauk, I'm fishing in my studded boots. These are also FROGGTOGGS, and they have spikes on the bottom. That way I have more grip of not slipping on the rocks that are full of algae, full of seaweed and stuff like that. So when you're fishing rocks and things like that, get either stocking foots with studded boots, or you can also get tie-on studded inserts or overserts, whatever they're called, for your boots. But I've found that those I kind of like slip and twist a little bit more inside of those than the regular boots. But you need a pair of waders for an initial spring, early summer water conditions when you're fishing the beach and stuff like that. The water's still cold. You don't want to end a fishing trip because you're cold. When it comes to summer, I typically don't wear my waders very much at all. I just go in the water and get splashed on. It's hot. You don't want to get in there and steamy. There's no point. So how do you carry all of this gear? Like I said, you can have the belt and you can have a belt bag, which I have here. This is a brand new one. I've fished my old one to death for the last 4 years. Everything's torn up, but this one is the least expensive one that I have found that has been actually durable and worth it. It has 3 tubes. It has 3 tubes that you can fit a ton of baits in here. It has a pouch where you can put bucktails and spoons and swim baits as well. Or if you're dumb like me, you can also put treble hooked baits in there. That's how I tore it up. Or you can do a backpack. You don't have to get fully surfed up in order to go surf fishing. You can do a backpack. This is a FROGGTOGGS backpack. This is a Jawbone backpack. This one's from Jigs. I have an Amazon Basics backpack that I carry stuff around in. I think that was $10 and it works just as fine. I think at most it fits a 3600 box, which is slightly smaller than this. This is a 3700 series. But the Amazon Basics, that was $10. I think this was $50. This one was closer to, I think, $90 or something. I'll link all of them down below. They've all worked really well for me, and I've done a lot of fishing with every single one of them, which is why I recommend it. I have a bunch of other things that I could talk about that I've fished with that I wasn't too happy with that you could get, but I'd rather talk about the things that I've been happy with. Another thing when it comes to surf fishing, you should know what your regulations are for your area. Every single state has its own Department of Conservation or Fish and Wildlife or something like that, where you can type in whether you're from Maryland, let's say striped bass regulations, New Jersey striped bass regulations, New York. We all have either similar or slightly different regulations, but if you do something outside of those regulations in your state, then there's going to be big problems. Make sure you get a fishing license as well. You don't want to be one of those guys that are on the beach without a fishing license. I don't know how it is in any other state, but New York saltwater is free. So all it is going to Dick's or going to a local tackle shop that sells fishing licenses and be like, I want a saltwater fishing license. And then they'll ask for your ID, give them your ID, and that's it. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything, but you have it just in case. I don't know why, but hey, whatever. Just make sure you have your fishing license. It's the legal thing to do. Don't keep anything under or over the limit, and only keep what you need. That way we can continue fishing for the next 10 years and the fishery can improve as we go with it. There's another thing that you're going to want. If the weather is bad, get a waterproof jacket. The jackets are definitely helpful. When it comes to either fishing the surf or getting rained on. It keeps you more comfortable than if you didn't have it. So get a rain jacket, get sunglasses, and a hat. The sunglasses are polarized. I use Waterland sunglasses. It typically, I think like 120, I think these are. I'll link them down below as well. And it just makes fishing a lot easier, seeing bait down in the water and just being able to see where fish are, currents, streams, drop-offs, and stuff like that. If you enjoyed that video, give it a thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button if you're new. We got a bunch of more tutorials coming for you for the year. And we're gonna help you guys catch some fish. And comment down below what your favorite time to fish is. Mine is spring, just to let you guys know. So spring is on the way and we're gonna be posting a lot of content. Anyway guys, thank you for watching. Stay real, smooch and release, and have some fun on the water. We'll see you next time.